The movie begins with a woman's internal monologue about love and intimacy. The voiceover introduces her as a free-spirited yet conflicted woman, and we see a montage of different scenes as she narrates her experiences with intimacy and love. Then the woman, Faye, is seen on top of a man named Cook as they engage intimately. After the montage ends, we see a lavish party hosted by Cook. We see a woman dressed as a charcuterie board at the party, while another woman undresses in front of Cook before skinny dipping. Cook then toasts other men as they drink. He takes over the scene with his charm and charisma, showing off his wealth and his wild lifestyle. He continues to do weird things, like try to convince the other man to try talking to other people. Because what if you have to kiss them? The other guy is named BV, and he looks around before his eyes set on Faye, who's walking around the party in a blonde bob. She glides through the crowd with a quiet magnetism. Their connection is immediate but understated. Faye playfully lingers near BV, and she manages to linger around him just enough for him to call out to ask her name, but she doesn't reply. Slowly, she goes up to him and offers him her headphones as they awkwardly listen to songs together. The scene cuts to Cook playing with a band, and then to him walking around his room to a mysterious woman. A mysterious woman, no other than Faye. This dynamic shows us Faye's internal conflict on how she is torn between BV's sincerity and Cook's power. The subtlety of her emotions is shown by the voiceovers, revealing her confusion and true feelings about the situation. We see more of Faye and BV's dynamics, as the next scene cuts to Faye and BV together, from doing things like driving together and playing together, laughing together before Faye's voiceover says, "I lied to you." We then see a crowded concert, where a woman is sharing an inspirational speech, telling the people that they are the future, and that they decide what happens to the world, and everything in it. Suddenly, BV's voice cuts in saying, "We were together before he even knew us." We see BV and Faye as a couple, hanging out at the concert, talking to people and having fun. Faye is then seen with her father in the next scenes, who seems worried and eager to visit, completely opposite of Faye, who awkwardly stands and looks as if she doesn't want him there. She tells him not to worry, and that she's doing fine up here. Then we see a few glimpses into BV and Faye together in his apartment, as they play around with each other. BV even shows her a fun side of him, dressed up in fitted women's clothes as she laughs at him. In the next scene, he plays the guitar for her, and Faye tells him to be careful of Cook. And when BV asks her why, she doesn't offer him an explanation, silently pacing about to break the setting. We see the scenes change to those of BV and Cook, showing their dynamic. Cook is the investor, trying to get BV involved in making a record to make money off his musical skills, while BV is skeptical. Cook even goes as far as to calling his pool a stage show, to make things sound inspirational and optimistic. Hearing BV's voiceover, he believes Cook's offers, and decides to put his trust in Cook and join hands in business. Meanwhile, we see scenes between Faye and Cook getting intimate, all while Faye is in a relationship with BV. Cook tries to convince Faye that BV doesn't love her, even though she ignores his comment. Faye resists his comments outwardly, but remains trapped in her dilemma. Faye and BV go out again, driving together as a woman's monologue plays, saying how life was a mix of highs and lows, like a sea. The next scene shows the three, Faye, BV, and Cook, going on a trip to Mexico. The Mexico trip allows the audience to witness how Cook manipulates both BV and Faye. Subtle glances between Cook and Faye reveal their secret connection, even as BV begins to trust Cook more deeply. This subtle tension sets the stage for what's to come. The three are seen having a lot of fun with one another, going on walks, the beach, and experiencing all the fun things Mexico had to offer. They even party and hang out with the locals, and BV's bond with Cook grows even stronger. As BV said, it felt like nothing could break them apart. BV also expressed his admiration for Cook's charm and vision, and slowly started to contemplate his offer. However, Cook's influence over Faye remained strong. The two briefly talk about Faye as well, as BV asks Cook about how he met her and Cook provides a nonchalant account. However, the infidelity does not stop, even in Mexico. While the three go out together, Faye and Cook exchange secret looks at one another, even in BV's presence. Afterwards, BV and Faye explore the sights together, as Cook tags along in the background. As the three get back from their trip from Mexico, we are introduced to another character, a blonde woman named Ronda, also a waitress struggling to make ends meet. We see Cook dazed before Ronda breaks his train of thought, and he starts flirting with her almost immediately. He tells her he can't be left alone for more than 5 minutes, and she laughs it off before making her way to leave because her boss was watching. He makes her twirl as he makes her sit down with her, getting to know her as he shows more interest. Enamored by her beauty and innocence, Cook seduces her with his wealth and charm. The two then go out for a ride in his Ferrari, and Cook takes her to a concert. She keeps him company throughout, and even when they meet the main singer of the band performing. We are then offered a glimpse into Ronda's life. She grew up in a working-class household with a mother who struggled to provide for her after her father left, revealing how her mother had thought she herself was a failure, showing how thankful Ronda was to her mother who gave her everything despite the fact that her father had left their lives. Cook seduces her with his money and flirting, and then Ronda is then drawn into his orbit of glamour and money, not knowing the reality of what was going to happen to her after being involved with Cook. Realizing everything that Cook had to offer, especially as she was struggling financially, the two got closer and closer. The two also went out to watch football matches as well as meet with Cook's band. Cook even gifts Ronda's mother a new house, and even reassures her that she could walk out with her family anytime she wanted and keep everything he had given to them. Ronda and Cook then get married in his home. Meanwhile, Faye's guilt had been growing to the point where she knew she had no other choice but to tell BV about what she had done. BV even asks her at one point if she lies to him, and she tells him that sometimes truth is not what someone else wants to hear. BV's and Cook's relationship starts to get worse, with arguments happening more frequently. BV finds out Cook has copyrighted the songs BV wrote in his name only, and loses his cool. Cook tries distracting BV with a silly dance before BV smashes a glass bottle and threatens Cook that he would make a scene. Cook offers Faye a record music contract in the next scene. Meanwhile, BV goes to a family gathering to meet his relatives and also meets his mom, who asks if he's seen his dad, but BV hesitates before saying he hasn't and abruptly leaves. BV's friends ask him if he's forgiven Cook, and he says he hasn't. Faye brings the record deal offer up with BV while they're doing the dishes. Although hesitation is clearly written on BV's face, he tells Faye that it is entirely up to her if she wants to have a contract with him, as she knows what is best for herself despite what he feels about Cook. Faye also tells him that she did not know whether to say yes or no to Cook's offer, and sought his advice. BV seems to think for a while, and although he is not happy about Cook's offer, he feels like he would hold her back from a lot of things if he doesn't let her accept the offer from Cook. He feels too selfish to not let Faye accept the offer and encourages her to take it. The two then engage intimately before we find Faye wondering why BV had not gone off with his ex and if it was because of her. BV then meets another woman, as they are seen talking about feelings as they spend time together. He then bids her goodbye and drops her off at the airport. One day, Faye decides to give Cook a visit, and as they start to get intimate, she finally makes the confession that she loves BV. The dynamics between Faye and BV slowly start to shift, caught in a distance between the two as the voiceover reveals how BV became suspicious and things changed in their relationship. This moment added to the emotional dilemma, as Faye's silence reflects her struggle to come clean with the guilt and dilemma she was experiencing, although she did not make it obvious on the outside. BV starts asking Faye questions, asking how long she had known Cook. Faye hesitantly responds by saying she knew Cook way before she met BV as she worked as his receptionist. BV tries to reassure her and tell her that she doesn't have to hide anything and they don't need to have any secrets hidden from one another. As Cook keeps trying to pursue Faye as a musician for his record, BV questions his attraction to Faye, and finally, he pops the question, "Did Faye ever sleep with Cook?" Faye answers yes, but says it was only once. Then BV asks her why she never told him. A series of questions began, with BV constantly asking Faye about Cook, and kept asking her to tell him insistently. He asks her to remember, but she tells him that she can't remember what happened with Cook. However, he kept on insisting for her to tell him the truth, and Faye realized it was now time to tell the truth. She tells him she only did what he told her to do. Then she changes her story. She tells him Cook and her had a romance, and that they had been involved intimately several times. He asks her why she decided to switch up her story, and she tells him that she had wanted to see how he'd do listening to that information. Even after the confession, the two stay together. One day, the two finally break up and part ways. Faye tries to ask BV if he could forgive her, and the movie shifts to BV's voiceover, announcing the breakup. He reveals that he had tried to be kind and put it behind him, but that in turn made him even colder towards Faye and their relationship. Faye cries looking out through the window, mourning the end of their relationship. In the next scene, we finally get to meet Ronda and Cook again. We find the duo engaging intimately, having the time of their lives with each other. The marital bliss is evident, and they seem to be enjoying their lives more than BV and Faye. However, it does not last very long. With Cook's cheating and wild lifestyle, Ronda seemed to be growing exhausted of it. We then meet Faye in the next scene, petting a woman's dog as they grew acquainted with one another. The woman is Zoe, who Faye offers her house-sitting services to. As Zoe shows Faye around the house, she lightly compliments Faye as they laugh together. The tension grows thick, and Zoe gets closer to Faye as she studies her face. The two women begin a relationship, and Faye mentions how Zoe wasn't ashamed to hold her hand or kiss her in public. Their relationship comes under notice to BV, who meets an older blonde woman named Amanda. He strikes up a conversation with her by telling her he heard she'd moved here. She tells him little details about herself, but we also find out other things from another woman. Amanda is divorced with 4 kids. BV expresses his interest in her, and she tells him she thinks he's hiding a little secret. He tells her she's beautiful as they have tea together, and soon after, begin a relationship. They go on dates from boating to trying risky things together. Faye finds herself at Cook's band's concert, where she rekindles her connection with Cook as they get cozy with each other. She performs as the band's guitarist. Faye and Zoe seem to be going as strong as ever, but then it is not. Faye realizes she can't move on from BV, and she could not continue the relationship with Zoe anymore, so Faye and Zoe's relationship ends. Even with BV, there seems to be trouble in paradise as he starts to look disconnected in his relationship with Amanda. As they got involved intimately, BV seemed to have a forced smile on his face to reassure Amanda. Faye finds her way back to Cook yet again, as they engage in intimate activities at his place before she cries outside his place. She then goes to her family, before realizing that she felt like a big failure and breaking down in front of father, apologizing to him about not being worth the sacrifices he had made over the years and how he would be less proud of her than her sisters. She paces about the gas station as her father tries to comfort her in the situation. BV meets Amanda's mother, who openly disapproves of the relationship, telling BV that he is the wrong person for her. Amanda walks away in frustration, and BV can't talk to the mother for any avail. BV takes Amanda to a motel and they engage in Meanwhile, Ronda is growing increasingly tired of Cook's lifestyle of substances and infidelity. As Ronda gets insecure and points it out, Cook completely avoids the conversation and keeps asking Ronda about her fantasies and if she wants to get high. Ronda finds it hard to cope with the relationship and vents to her mother as well. Unfortunately, her mother passed away soon after, and Ronda feels all alone. Distraught, she felt lost and did not know what to do. Too involved in his own superficial world, Cook fails to notice Ronda until it is too late. After one of his escapades, he finds Ronda drowned in his pool, and her lifeless body leaves him shocked and confused as he gets her out and lays her out on a grass patch, thinking about her untimely demise. He walks around his house depressed and in tears, imagining Ronda wherever he went. Cook's grief is explored in greater depth. Cook then gets haunted by visions of Ronda and consumed by guilt. His overall careless and wild demeanor gets lost as he mindlessly walks around his house, trying to process his wife's passing, as we see flashbacks of her struggling from her mother's passing and the lack of her support from her own husband. In the next scene, we find BV back in his hometown, walking through a small hallway until we meet his sick father. He gives him water and takes care of him while staring longingly. At his home, he starts thinking about Faye again while looking out the window and tearing up. He thinks about how she would caress him and his hair as he drove his Jeep, and the other moments they had shared with one another. Faye is seen again practicing the guitar, talking to an older woman who also happens to be a musician. In the next scene, we find BV at a party, who is already regretting his decision of even coming in the first place. Surprisingly, there he meets Faye again, and they reconnect with each other. He asks her if she has a boyfriend, to which she says no, and starts fidgeting. He jokingly pretends to not know her, and asks if they've met before. She says she's seen him several times before, and he says he's not doing anything wrong by talking to her. Faye laughs and says no. In the next scene, BV lightly touches her face, saying she got something on it. Faye smiles and asks if he got it, and he caresses her face a few times before saying he got it. They talk to each other awkwardly and she even teaches him how to play the piano. The next day he asks her about Zoe, who he had seen her with at the hotel that particular day. Looking at him, Faye lies and tells him it's just a random girl. He asks her why she's smiling and Faye says she doesn't know why, and they start laughing. Faye asks BV about his relationship as well, and he says that they went out but he never called her again. She asks if BV loved the girl, and he says he did not realize it at that time, implying that he actually did love Amanda. However, the two rekindle their relationship and start dating again, and Faye shows BV's pictures to the older guitarist, who tells her not to let him go if she really loves him. Faye finally performs on stage again, and has a good relationship with BV. BV acknowledges the scars of their relationship but chooses to embrace the possibility of a future together.